Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. It's time to have a look at another devlog from the next major update, and this time it's for the USS Tennessee, which is a big old battleship from America. This vehicle also kind of confirms the leak list that has basically come out, and if you want to see videos on that, I'll leave a link in the comments section for it, because the Tennessee is such an odd vehicle to add in its own way, and also with all the other devlogs coming along, it's not really a surprise to see this as well. The vehicle is going to be at rank 6, it's not going to be a premium, it's going to be in the tech tree, and also, it's going to get its late war refit, so instead of just having its large guns, it's going to have all of the tiny ones too, to be able to annihilate anything in the air. Let's get into the history of this vehicle. The USS Tennessee was laid down in 1917 as the lead ship of a class of 2 battleships, representing a further development of the preceding New Mexico class. Continuing the by then established standard-type design philosophy of American battleships, the USS Tennessee was built with a particular emphasis on improved torpedo and also mine protection, while also increasing the range of its main battery guns through an updated turret design. These, as well as other improvements, soon resulted in the commissioning of the most advanced battleships of the US Navy at the time, taking place in 1920. After entering service, the USS Tennessee would take part in numerous fleet exercises and went on goodwill tours until the outbreak of the Second World War. After the US entered the war in 1941, USS Tennessee underwent repairs following the attack on Pearl Harbor. Soon after, the warship was modernized, undergoing a major refit, which substantially upgraded the ship's capabilities. Throughout the rest of the war, the Tennessee took part in many key operations in the Pacific Theater and was involved in almost every major battle in the final stages of the war. After the war's end, the USS Tennessee, like many warships, was put in reserve until it was finally decommissioned and then sold for scrap in 1959. So with the Tennessee coming in the next major update, it brings along something which I suppose is a slightly better standard than what's already there for America, but I feel like one of the big things that you see from other nations that is talked about, something like 15-inch guns, 16-inch guns, things like this, where the Tennessee itself is still stuck on the 14-inch guns. Now, there is 12 of them in triple mount, so it will be able to put out a lot of firepower, but I feel like when it comes to American machines, there's people who always want larger guns. The major thing for me that's the problem with the American machines is the reload. The fact that you have to sit there for 30 to 40 seconds waiting for the guns to get ready again kind of is a bit annoying. I would rather have a little bit more quicker reload, and one of the things that America does very well, especially with its heavy cruisers and light cruisers, is a very impressive reload. The Tennessee, since this is its World War II refit, it does have a ton of secondaries on it. First of all, it has 8 dual 5-inch dual-purpose cannons, so these ones are the standard turrets that you see on the destroyers and also on a lot of the cruisers. These have HEVT, they have HE, they have AP, they can do whatever you want. They're incredibly good at everything. The only issue with this BR is they'll struggle to penetrate the larger ships, but you're not really using it for that. You're basically using it for air defense, and also if PT boats get a little bit rowdy at the higher BRs. The other part as well is this has access to 10 quadruple 40mm guns. So you have 40mm on this machine, mainly in the center of the vehicle, which will do a lot of damage to aircraft. Hopefully, this thing being such a large silhouette, the guns will be useful. One of the problems that I've had is even if all the guns go off, usually aircraft stay so high that it doesn't really help unless they're turning and then they get hit by a single 40mm and then they kind of get annihilated. Sometimes what happens is it actually just lags the server, and then that's obviously more of a problem. But on top of that set of quadruple 40mm, it also has 43 single 20mm. So you basically have 40 40mm and 40 20mm as well, which is nuts. It's a lot of AA armament, which should keep it alive, and hopefully mean that even though this thing isn't as fast as other machines, it can still go 20.5 knots or 38 kilometers an hour. But when you're dealing with aircraft, especially at the higher echelons, I feel like there are better machines that are going to do well at the anti-air role. But with this being able to at least defend itself, hopefully it will mean that people don't use it as a target to hit. Hopefully they go for other stuff instead, because it's still big, it's still large, and it still should be quite easy to hit from a very high altitude if it's standing still. The other part of the vehicle is, of course, the armor itself. It has very large torpedo bulges, which are quite nice, and also has a decent set of armor on it. So even though its punching power isn't as good as a lot of other vehicles that you'll see at the high echelons of naval, you'll be able to take damage. And it's still kind of out there for me whether it's better to be able to soak damage or do damage. Usually I prefer to be on the offensive side of things, the aggressive side of things in War Thunder, kind of like with the light vehicles in ground forces, where you're able to move around a lot quicker. But in general, there are certain vehicles in the game, especially when it comes to naval, which their ability to soak damage really helps them out. Stuff like the Candid, for example, for America, against a lot of coastal machines, makes it very strong. Stuff like the M802 back in the day, that's why it was so strong for the longest time, because it could tank damage like nothing else. It was kind of crazy. The belt armor on this vehicle is 343 millimeters, which is pretty good. I think there are machines which are better than it, and machines that are worse. And the other thing to actually kind of talk about this machine is, once again, those major guns. The fact that it does have quite a lot of them, the 14-inch guns, they will do a decent chunk of penetration, but the fact is, there's a lot of vehicles in this game that just have larger guns, and therefore larger amounts of penetration, larger amounts of explosive mass, and targeting a vehicle like this, it's going to be interesting to see, will the armor hold up? Like, when I look at a lot of those Japanese battleships at the end of the tree, I feel very scared for vehicles like America, because of the fact that the firepower difference is so large. And the other part of it as well is knowing America's history and knowing what eventually is going to come. The fact is, eventually America will just get crazy machines that will be able to take over everything. But the Tennessee feels like another kind of like stopgap in that way, which they don't want to kind of push forward and add in all of the crazy machines that America did kind of had. The Tennessee itself is lovely to see, though. It is a fantastic vehicle when it comes to history, and another one that has a really, really nice history on it. And hopefully this means with the leak list that it's all true. The leak list itself looked very good. It looked very promising. The only bit that didn't really make a lot of sense was the event, which, if you remember, was the HMS Warspite of all things, instead of a proper ground vehicle, which I think people are expecting. But as always, let me know your thoughts on this vehicle. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem, Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.